How did you do it, Mr. Dalibor Martinis?
In the beginning of the 70s, when I was a young artist, just graduated from the academy, like many other artists, young artists especially, we were looking for a medium that would not be already burdened by being recognized as an artistic tool. And video was such medium. It was at that time it was not an artistic tool. It was a technical thing that was invented for the television, and the first portapak, as it is known, Namjoon Paik was the first user. So there was this little idea that it could be used as an artistic medium, but it was free of rules, artistic rules, expectations. It was free for experimentation. And the first work I did with video was with the idea of pushing it to the limits, to do things that the apparatus itself or the medium is not made for. So I did, for example, open reel, which is a video that has me sitting in front of a camera, and on the video recorder, videotape goes, as you know, in that time it was the open reel system, not the cassettes that came later. So the videotape goes to the video head where the recording is made from the camera. And instead of going to the second reel, I took that videotape and started putting it around my head. So I was turning around in front of the camera on the chair, piano chair, and the tape went over my head, slowly covering my head with the blackness of the tape. The thing that interested me was that the fact that the camera was seeing what it recorded just a little bit before. So because the tape that went from the video head to my head was what the camera recorded 2 or 3 seconds before. So the camera was looking at a videotape that carries the images of what it just did. And the viewer saw my face disappearing under the black tape, and that tape carry the images of my face. So it has this thing that the technical dimension is mixed with let's say identity or the face or the portrait, and although my face was disappearing, it was covered with the images of my face. So this was one of the first tapes that I did. The other work was TV timer I did with Sanya. The idea was that we will have we went, it was shot in Graz for the one of the first video exhibitions that were made in Europe. And we went and did several short, maybe 10 or 12 short videotapes that were dealing with the idea of time. The idea was to bring this little tapes into the program of the television. So we had the kind of installation in the exhibition with a timer that pushed the video into the existing program of the television, but at the time that was recorded on the videotape. And that time was always the false time. We didn't do the right time. We would go and ask people on the street what time it is, and the man would say 7:15. We would say, no, it's not 7:15, it's 7:40. And we said, no, it's 7:15. And so we quarreled about that, but we would let the tape into the program at 7:40. So we were right and he was wrong. He was looking at a watch and showing, but so the idea was in a way to kind of show that television can do whatever. You know, they can manipulate time, they can manipulate information. If television decides that things are like that, you know, things are like that, and doesn't matter what the reality tells us. So this was the idea to sort of produce little tapes that always deal with the time in a kind of false way, and then proclaim it right. And it worked like that, you know, that little apparatus, that little timer would push the video into the program, so you would see in the middle of Austrian news, suddenly you would see us on the street talking to the people for 1 minute, and then back to the news, and 7 minutes later it would be something else. We would phone and listen to the voice on the telephone saying what time it is and things like that. So it was again the way of searching for either the technological limits of the medium or the limits of the context being television. So it went like that for most of the 70s, and in 78 I did another work that deals with television and time. I did a performance in Vancouver in one art center. It was a public thing. I posed 20 questions to myself from the year 2000. So I in 1978 was asking Dalibor Martinis of the year 2000 about things. So the performance was just putting the questions, and then I archived the video cassette, and I had to wait not to 2000 because I didn't get a chance to do it the way I thought it should be done, and I thought it should be done on television, not as a gallery performance or something like that. I wanted to have a real medium that can manipulate time in the way I think it can. So in 2010 I did the interview with myself on the Croatian television. And on the screen there was this guy from 1978, young artist, trying to be smart, and me sitting on the other side in studio answering the questions that the young artist asked. So it was again the kind of a game between two artists being the same person, but not really, because it was quite a difference of almost 30 years in between me in 78 and me in 2010. So again, it was something that tried to use the medium in the way that it is not usually used. To show that medium can change time, that can go back and forth, and it's something that I'm even in the show that I'm doing now here in Zagreb, I'm dealing with the time again. So I think the medium has this quality, and it had it from the very beginning. It's moving images, and moving images are linked with time. Unlike the photography or painting. Moving images go through time supposedly, but you can produce sometimes something that would question this idea of linear time passing by, especially when film became digital, and digital images are placed in the memory of a computer. The order of images are, questionable. There is this order that you recorded, but this order can be disordered. It could be produced in some other order, and you can get something that was not initially meant to do. I did a year and a half ago, I did a film which is called Cinematic Nail Factory. It's material that I shot almost maybe even more than 20 years ago in a nail factory in Karlovac, in the town near Zagreb. It's an old, it doesn't exist anymore. It's an old factory that produced nails for, like horseshoe nails for horses, donkeys, and camels. Very interesting combination. So I had this material for many years, and then I decided I got the idea that I could do something that was practically the same as it was done in the factory. So I thought if I could produce films the way they produced nails, that could be, interesting. So I chose 99 shots from the material that I had, and then I used the software that would produce, each time it is activated, a different order of this shot. So each film is original. There is no two films that are the same. It's always the order of the shots are the same. So my motto is, one film for each nail. So I can produce as many films as they used to produce nails. And this is again the idea that today you can create new time. You can. It's not even the manipulation, because manipulation supposes that there is something that is right, and then you manipulate with that and do something else. But now we know that there is not such thing like right, or there is a true nature of time, or there is a true nature of anything. So to do a different film each time, each film has the same original quality. There is not one great film and the others are just copies. They are all original, and it's so whenever I show it now on the festival, I send the new version. So it's like 15th cinematic nail factory or 35th cinematic nail factory. It's always the new film being shown. I could even, if there would be a technical possibility, each viewer could see the original film just for herself or himself, and that could be erased, and another person would see another version of the film. So this is again dealing with a medium in a way that brings in the new dimensions that now we know that exist. And I think I had this first ideas still with me whenever I grab a camera or I do something with the image, with the moving images. It's always this initial idea of open reel, how you can bring in question the time that is supposed to be linear in a kind of linear in the way the pictures are in film, especially, placed one after the other in a way that is unbreakable. So this is what brings me always back to video or film or whatever we call it today. In the first, especially in the 70s and early 80s, the work that I did, and I guess many other artists that started to work with video, it was not based on editing at all, because we didn't have an opportunity to edit. So it would be, one shot thing. It would be like open reel is in a way, let's say, video performance. It doesn't rely on editing and mixing shots or doing like that. It's one shot, and many of the works that I did, it was the same. I did something in front of the camera, and like one of the tapes that I did was in Venice with this gallery. I took the camera on the tripod and I started to balance the tripod. The camera was showing in my hand, and I was doing that, and the video lasted as long as I could do this. So it's like, I don't know, minute and a half, and then I had to grab because otherwise the camera would fall down. So again, you try to find another dimension in the moving images, not the editing, which is very film based idea of using moving images. We try to keep it continuous, as long as it made sense for us, or as I said, as it was possible to shoot. Then later, I in the late 80s, I started to work for Zagreb television. I was directing a cultural program, pop culture, music, architecture, design, visual arts. And of course, then I had I knew the people. I knew the people that were doing editing. I knew the people, cameramen. So it became a bit easier when I needed to edit video. I could, ask the person who is professional in that. So it changed, and as I said, when we started to work with Belgrade television, that was also included. It was, the way television does the production. So but as I said, the first period was. The editing was not on the table, and actually it was very good because you had to conceptualize something in the most simple possible way, without adding anything, music or something that would film director would be ready to use just to have more interesting thing for the viewer. This was based on a very, very simple conceptual type of making something. The first occasion to actually see video equipment, the camera and the portable, video recorder was, I think, 1973, when one critic from New York came to Zagreb to see what's happening here, and he had a portapak with him. So it was, that was the first we heard about it, but we had no real idea. This is the first time that we saw the equipment. Then a year or two later, there was this big exhibition sponsored by Sony in Graz that was dealing with video. So we were invited because we were, kind of neighboring culture, and Graz is near Zagreb, and this is when Sanja and I, we did this TV timer that I just explained. This was the possibility to do it, actually. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to do anything. So, and for quite a number of years, whatever I did was linked to the occasions. There was in the mid-70s, the more and more video festivals were, established, and if you would be invited, there would be some occasion to, do something with equipment there. The one big opportunity was one gallery in Venice, which the gallerist was interested in video. He bought the equipment, and then he started also kind of production that included Austrian, Italian, and Yugoslav or Croatian artists. And he would come to Motovun in Istria, and the occasion was called Motovun Meetings. And again, you know, he would come with the equipment, and we would all be able to, you know, do short stuff each day. You know, another artist would do, or two artists in one day. Whatever it was for us, this was again an occasion to do something with video. This is how I did Open Reel and a few other tapes that I did at the time in the 70s. And then later, slowly, the equipment became cheaper. It was produced for market for the home use, so we could afford it, and we bought some Sony Betamax, and then VHS came, and it became easier, but still the way it has to be done was very simple, kind of amateur level. You know, we didn't have any support for making video, like, I don't know, Film had, you could have, short documentary or feature film or whatever. Video was not considered serious medium. It was even not because of us being not educated as filmmakers, but also that because film people at the time considered television as a low level, like a bad idea of film. It was not really serious competition. So we had to do it ourselves. Later on, some televisions in Yugoslavia became interested because, some curator, Dunja Blažević, for example, from Belgrade, started a TV program on Belgrade television that dealt with the medium. So we were again invited, and we were able to produce something with a crew from television. It was much more serious, and it was all the expenses would be covered. So that became slowly more and more recognized as something, if not really of great value, at least something provoking, interesting, something that television could maybe explore a little bit and cover. And then later on Zagreb television also did something, and so it slowly became recognized. Then there was some a level of support possible from the Ministry of Culture. It was small money, but for us used to do things without no money. It meant also the way that you can produce something, but also that your work is recognized at least at a certain level. So this way of going from doing something only when the occasion was there to being able to do something with your own equipment was a big step for us. I remember I had we were shooting in New York, something in the 80s, and I left the case with the camera in the subway, and I went out, and the moment I realized I didn't take the camera, the door closed, and I saw a black boy inside, and I was like showing, yeah. And he took the camera, ran in between two wagons, gave us this, and the train went on. I was like, shit. He easily could say thank you very much, but he did, everything. So we got it back, and then you realize, well, maybe I should take care more seriously about the equipment. So we learned a lot about that. And then, later, of course, when it became digital, the whole system changed, and everything became much easier to, and in a way, production, editing, it was as it is now, something that you can really do by yourself. Video installation is another way of using the medium. It incorporates the space of the viewer, so the physical space in which the viewer finds himself or herself while watching video images becomes part of the work. So it's not just the screen, it's the space in between. So it could be several screens, or it could be screens on the ceiling or on the floor. So it gives the viewer the idea that he or she is in the physical space while watching moving images, and that opened a lot of possibilities of combining the idea that maybe existed in sculpture before, in classical sculpture. It gives also the possibility to use the space, but this was for us more interesting and provoking, because the moving images in space was something that was not actually used. The most you could do with the moving images is the cinema. You go into the cinema, you sit, and you still watch it like you watch TV today. It's the moment the film starts, you forget about the theater, movie theater. You are concentrated. In video installation, you are pushed to all the time be aware of the space in between and you and the image, and that became also kind of like a sub-discipline of video. And for me it was very interesting, because me being a visual artist, I had this need also to use something that I didn't forget how to do. So I did quite a number of video installations. At first it would use the television sets, because that was what was available. Then later the video projectors came on the market, and we could sometimes use it, although at that time it was very expensive equipment, and you couldn't use several. At least I couldn't. Somewhere in New York, some artists could, of course, afford it. But again, I always thought that the fact that I am not able to do whatever I have in mind is actually a good thing. It keeps you, within the limits of really well thought ideas, instead of having something spectacular and being really feeling great because you could use 10,000 of monitors, and luckily Namjoon Paik already did that, so we couldn't compete with it, so we could forget what can you do? You can put 10 monitors, he can put a few hundreds. So I think I kept the concept of video installation also into the very minimal way of just establishing this relationship between the viewer, the space, and the moving image. And I think today still it's something that I find interesting, and I think video installation, just because it's in the physical space and it respects the physical space, is something that is different from seeing images on the screen. The switch that came from analog video to digital was not, clear cut. It took some time, As I was working on television, you had digital Betacam, tapes, and it was the quality of the image was better, much better. But it took some time before it became something that was actually done in a computer, and that meant, I think, the biggest switch for me and for probably for many other artists that were dealing with what we used to call video, because the moment you could place this into the memory of your computer, it meant that it is available for anything. And more as the technology and the software and the hardware of the computers developed, it was the possibilities became bigger and bigger and totally open. So we had really professional editing softwares that you can use, sitting in your living room. And it changed, of course, the idea. As I said, I started to think about the software as being a co-creator of my work. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So it's now even opening, with artificial intelligence, it's opening more and more this blurred border between, my own ideas and maybe something that is brought by software. And this is interesting, sometimes it's scary, but I think if you approach it in the right way, it can bring you new ideas, or you can open new, visions of anything, not just the medium or the art, but also the world as it is. So I think it's unbelievable actually how many changes from the, let's say, mid-70s when I started working with video, and today, from open reel to cassettes to DVDs to hard disk, solid state disk, whatever. It's so many developments that we just go through by doing what we do. One of the big changes in digital technology compared to the analog was the idea, the fact that you don't lose the quality by making copy. With analog, it was like, copying, on the copy machine. It's every next copy loses a bit of a quality. And I had to, for example, for this interview with myself from '78, I realized when I got the chance to do it on television that I don't have a U-matic tape anymore. So I had only a VHS, that was a copy of a copy of a copy, probably 10 copies made. So the picture was really bad, but luckily it doesn't matter, it's not, the point is not in the quality. But the thing is that today you can use the material, reuse it, you can copy, you can distribute, and it keeps the original, almost original quality. So that's one of the big changes, that makes you able doing things by yourself. And now we will sing something together. Da, da, da.
Nice collection.
Part of the biblioteca bookshelves, and the rest Irena brought, so we have a lot of books. Now we have to space for new books. This was also, I think, in the 80s. Can you imagine? They were collecting the cell phones for the soldiers. It was the war in Iraq or something. And somebody got the idea that they could collect all the cell phones for the soldiers. I think that was a kind of a silly idea because already everybody had a cell phone, but I kept this. Help our troops, call home.
That's your auntie?
Opera singer, famous in the 50s, famous opera singer. She sang for opera in Vienna. These are the nails, horseshoe nails for donkeys, horses and camels, produced in that factory. And this is also one film, possibly, and cinematic nail factory.
And this is a prize
of the Bogota Film Festival. In, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or something like that.
And how many prizes you had altogether?
A little more than one, but not too many. It's the works from Mladen Stilinovic, an artist, a good friend of mine, who died unfortunately a couple of years earlier. And these pieces are actually something that he would bring whenever we would invite him and his wife to our birthday or something. This would be a gift. So all these works are gifts from Stilinovic to us.
This is very valuable collection.
These are bananas, and these 3 photos are called live transmission. The photos are made so that I took a photo paper and bring it to the TV screen, kept for a few seconds, and then developed in the laboratory. So this is, you see that clock, it's the clock that you probably remember before the news every night in the 80s. You had this clock, it came to 7:30 and then the news would start. So I took this direct transmission of the image from television to photography. A friend of mine took a picture in 1986, I think, when John Cage was in Zagreb for the Music Biennale, and I grabbed a photo from him and said, "This is now mine." And he said, "Okay."